Hey,
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Um, we just come today to talk about a few things. I mean, if you are interested in, let me just say this before we start.
okay, go on.
If you're really interested in sugars, you should listen to this conversation very, very carefully because you might pick up some good stuff here. We had a good night last night.
Yeah, we went round to a friend's for dinner. That was quite pleasant.
Yeah.
And the conversation got steered towards weight gain, weight loss, what
Yeah.
does sugar do, blah, 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 blah,
I
blah.
love seeing the baby. He's so cute.
Yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah. It's
So,
really cute baby.
yes,
We're not going to say their names for privacy, but
No.
he had a good night.
they're good friends and
Yeah.
it was nice to be invited. And summer's coming, as you can tell now.
Yeah, I
Getting
know.
closer and closer and
I know.
closer, which is
I know.
very exciting.
Very, very exciting.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we said we were talking about sugars and the effects that sugar have in the body, whether it's natural sugars or added sugars,
Okay.
you know. So I think there's been a few questions or conversations raised upon sugars and the effects it has on the body, how it gets processed, and sorry, and how that contributes to weight loss or disease. So we're going to talk about 3 types of sugars.
Okay. Yep. Sure. Why not?
I'm doing it all the time.
Yeah, you're leading the conversation. I'm just here listening to what you have to say.
I know. So we have obviously the main types of sugars, which are
Oh, let's test the biology, chemistry here.
I know. I know fructose. We have fructose.
Fructose,
We have
glucose,
glucose, and
Yeah.
we have
galactose.
galactose.
So simple sugars and more complex sugars. Don't get too carried away with the names. It's not probably that important.
No.
But what's important to know is that there's lots of different types of sugar, and the way it's absorbed and metabolized in the body is actually very different. So it's important to just have a basic understanding of the way that the body absorbs and metabolizes these kinds of sugars. So you have very simple sugars, which are things called monosaccharides. Mono meaning single, and a saccharide meaning a sugar or a type of carbohydrate. And these are the most basic molecules that you can have. And to be utilised for energy in the brain and the central nervous system. Glucose is the main one.
Yeah.
Galactose is another one, and fructose, I think, is the third one. So, and then you have disaccharides, which are a little bit more complex, and that just means di means 2, and saccharides again means sugar. So the thing that comes up a lot in people is about fructose, and they seem to think that fructose is bad and fructose should be avoided because fructose is found in fruit, right? It's fruit sugar.
Yeah.
That's why the thing's named fructose.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, but it's what's important to know about fructose is when you find it in fruit, right? It has a lot of minerals with it. It has fibre with it. It has all kinds of different compounds with it, and it's not anywhere near as damaging for the body as when you get it from a refined source that doesn't have any of those other binding agents or minerals or whatever. And the other important thing to know about fructose is that there's only one organ that can be processed, it can be processed in the body, and that's the liver. So all fructose that you take in, it can't be absorbed by the brain or the kidneys or the heart or the lungs.
All right, that's
or
interesting.
whatever.
Hold on there. So when you eat foods that are concentrated in fructose, but one of the things that I think you need to explain is fructose, is it naturally occurring or can it be modified?
It is, yes. Well, it is naturally occurring in fruit in very small amounts.
Yeah.
When you concentrate it, that's when you get into trouble. If you strip all the rest of the stuff and you just eat foods, I mean, the obvious one, we don't have it so much in Australia, but the high fructose corn syrup that they use by the ton in North America.
Sweet juices?
This can be a problem. Yes, so if you, and again, it's quite hard to eat 4 apples,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a lot of fibre and a lot of minerals, but it's very easy to drink the juice of 4 apples because that's just a glass of apple juice. And so, and this, this puts sugar into the body very, very quickly, and can be damaging if you're overdoing it. So I never tell people to not eat fruit, but you have to kind of be aware of how this works in the body. It's important.
I think one thing you said, everything in moderation. So
Absolutely.
when you're eating your fruit, not necessarily that you should cut them off, isn't it?
No, you shouldn't.
You eat them moderately.
You need to eat fruit. I never think fruit is a bad thing. If you've got problems with blood sugar, like you're diabetic, or you've got a fatty liver or whatever, then you have to watch how much sweet fruit you're having. But fruit has a lot of minerals in and anti-cancer properties and lots of interesting compounds that are very good for health. So I never agree when people say don't eat fruit because it's got fructose in and that's bad. That's misleading and not the truth in my opinion. That's crazy.
So one thing that you picked up is you said when fructose gets metabolized in the liver.
Yeah, only the liver, no other organ can metabolize
No other
fructose.
organs, okay. And then it has to be, if it's excess, then it gets stored as fat.
Well, exactly. Yes, it'll get converted straight to fat and stored in the liver, and that's a problem. Obviously, you don't want lots of fat built up in your liver.
I think one other question that I find very interesting is the sugars in naturally occurring, like raw grains, and sugars found in processed. What's the difference there?
Well, in the raw form, it tends to be much less of a problem because the raw form has all the fibre in it, like you're saying, and it has the nutrition. So, like, go back to the example of brown rice and white rice, or brown bread and white bread. It's the same grain, right? It's the same rice. The difference is the white stuff is just the carbohydrate core. The brown rice has all the fibre, all the minerals, all the vitamin E, the magnesium, the iron, the zinc. Everything is incorporated in that grain. So if you strip all that off and you get rid of that, and then you just eat the core, which is the white part, that's when you have problems because there's nothing there to bind and slow the absorption of sugar. And then you're just getting the pure hit of carbohydrate and not all the other things that you're supposed to get with the food.
Yeah, I think the other issue also is to do with satiety. Is that right?
Satiety,
where when you eat foods in their raw form, or
that it makes you fuller for longer.
You feel fuller for longer.
So back to that example, if you're having the white stuff, right, you convert that into sugar very quickly in the body, and if you have any excess, you'll immediately store it as fat, and that will also empty from the blood, and your cells will be saying, well, I'm hungry. I'm just eating, but I'm hungry now because there's nothing going through to the cells, a little bit of energy, and that's it. You eat the brown stuff, there's a lot of fibre and different minerals in that, and vitamin E and all kinds of different things.
I think
so that keeps you fuller.
The other example where we are there talking about raw, it's the same as eating a fruit, like you said, eating an apple, than having a glass of fruit juice.
Absolutely.
Because there's, all those high sugar.
Well, it's concentrated.
Concentrated.
And had a lot of the goodness strained out.
Processed.
And also the other thing about like orange juice and bottled juice and things which people should know is that generally the fruit quality is so bad that it can't be sold as fruit, because no one's going to buy it. But they can juice it and turn it into liquid and bottle it. So the quality of that stuff is actually questionable, and then they basically break it down to make it more sugary, take all the fibre out, and then you drink it, and that's an issue.
Unless you're having cold pressed, obviously, juices.
Cold pressed juices that you're having yourself with some fibre in, but generally you do tend to strain all the fibre out. The only exceptions are things like a NutriBullet, where you have no choice, but everything gets blended up, and you have to have the fibre as well. And that's really what you should be doing. Anyway,
I think that's a very big topic, like you say,
topic.
But we will keep breaking it down.
We'll keep talking about this because it is important to understand some of these concepts.
So one thing that I was reading there, about sugars is also to do with the lactose sugars. It is formed in Is it naturally occurring too?
Lactose is milk sugar.
Yeah.
So it's the part of, foods aren't completely generally all protein or all carbohydrates or all fats.
Yeah.
So in milk, for example, you have some carbohydrate component, but you also have fats and you have protein.
Yeah.
You have all that stuff. So the type of sugar that is found in milk, or the type of carbohydrate, is lactose. And the problem with people that can't handle that is because lots of people have gut problems. Asians, a lot of African people, some Caucasians do as well. They're missing an enzyme called lactase. Lactase is the enzyme that breaks down the milk sugar, breaks down lactose. And if you're missing this enzyme and you haven't got this ability to break it down in the body, it can cause diarrhea, it can cause stomach upsets, it can cause lots of different issues.
Yeah, but in regards to weight loss and people tend to think milk is not good for you. If you're having, good full cream milk, it should be good for you.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
Again, you want to have it in moderation.
In moderation,
Milk ultimately is designed for baby cows. So if you're not a baby cow, you might want to rethink about whether you should have glasses
well,
of milk
there's
or not.
lots
I drink it.
There's lots of nut milks. We're not only talking
Nut
about
milk, sure.
Animal milk with so there's lots of alternatives. I think that was very interesting. I want to learn a little bit more about
we'll go
sugars.
into more about this. We'll go into monosaccharides and disaccharides a little bit more, but it is a big topic. Don't be frightened by it, but just know they are, important, and basically the more complex you can get, the less processed you can get, the better it's going to be for your body.
I think the one thing that I picked up, just correct me if I'm wrong, that when you're talking about fructose, how it gets metabolized by the liver, and then that's an excess kind of fat, because you already have glucose in your.
Well, so the difference between those two, right, is that glucose can be absorbed by every organ. So the brain and the kidneys and the lungs and the heart, whatever, any kind of tissue can utilize glucose.
Okay.
And then what happens is you use about 80% of the glucose to the rest of the organs, and the liver only has to deal with about 20% of that. And that isn't the case with fructose. So fructose can't be used by different parts of the body. It can only be metabolized in the liver.
So which means that doubles the amount of fat that, 20% from the glucose, and then you have fructose.
Well, so it begins as a carbohydrate, and then it gets converted into fat.
Okay.
And stored in the liver. So that's why having fructose in large amounts, in concentrated forms, can be a real big problem if you're, if you've got problems with blood sugar already, or you're trying to get your liver working better. You've got to be a bit cautious about that.
Okay.
Probably enough for one session. We'll wait for some feedback. Any comments and questions, guys, let us know. General advice only, not medicinal advice. We're having discussions on nutrition. So if you've got any comments or questions, let us know, and we'll see you soon.
See you. Bye.